welcome back to All Hitches, NoVA's #1 football podcast. Coach Mesa, what's up, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Yourself? Anything new?
No, man. I'm just enjoying this fantastic March weather. That's what I'm enjoying, buddy.
little baseball in the air?
Yeah, a little warming up that arm. Right? Get some throws in.
So in California, we used to often drive to Phoenix to watch spring training because the Dodgers were playing. Once they left Dodger Town in Florida, we used to go down there. That's a thing. Actually, the busiest time of year in Phoenix is during spring training. It's like their busy season.
Cactus League.
Cactus League, yeah.
Good old Cactus League.
You can see so many games. I mean, they're all so close to each other.
Yeah.
You get a chance to go down to Florida and watch any spring training down in Florida?
No, never watched. But one of my brothers lives in Tampa, and we would go down there and visit him. And he's got he wasn't too far at the time from where the Yankees play.
Oh, okay.
And I guess they're whatever.
The Grapefruit League down there,
right? That's their affiliate down there, yeah. And I think it's Steinbrenner Stadium, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it really?
We drove by it. And I was like, oh, look at that. I was like, it was kind of weird seeing the Yankee logo and stuff.
Yeah.
Did
I tell you my degree of separation from a Hall of Famer who was a manager for the Yankees?
No.
My first cousin, her grandfather is Bob Lemon, who was the manager in between like two of them Billy Martins. He's also a Hall of Famer for the Cleveland Indians. Yeah. So
I was hoping you were going to say Billy Martin.
No.
Nobody. You and I were talking about him earlier today. No one was fired better and more often than Billy Martin.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my. I am 1 degree of separation from a guy in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I have a 1 degree of separation from athletically from someone like that who's good friends or someone else. Yeah, I mean, one of my good friends, he's Charlie Garner's cousin. Charlie Garner. I wouldn't call him Hall of Fame, but he was a really good player.
Oh yeah, well he probably in the Pro Bowl, right? I'd imagine.
Yeah, Charlie Garner's, and this is all about NoVA football here on this show, my friend. And that's a Justice football guy, even though it was Stewart back then, but that's a Justice football guy. Crossroads, right? When he'd score a touchdown, he'd do the Crossroads.
Yeah. Oh,
you didn't know that, but that's what he was doing. I didn't know that. That's what he was doing. He was doing Crossroads. Bailey's Crossroads. We're going to have some audience members talk about that. 100% people will comment on that. That's what he was doing. They used to own Flavor's Soul Food on Columbia Pike. His family. Yeah. So I'm a big Charlie Garner fan. Okay. Charlie Garner, and one of my old coworkers taught him and coached him at Stewart. Shout out to Coach Delano, Hall of the Very Good Coach Delano. Yeah. His 2002 season, the Raiders Super Bowl season against the Buccaneers, a lot of people don't remember this unless you're a Raider fan, but 90 catches, 900 yards receiving, 900 yards rushing.
200 yards away from the 1,000, huh?
The 100,000. 10 catches away from the only other guy I can think of that would have come closer than Roger Craig.
Yeah,
in his prime. I don't think he did 100 catches though.
Yeah, but I know he had 1,000. I know he was the first over 1,000.
He did 1,000. He didn't have the 100. I've looked this up before. LaDainian might have been close.
Yeah,
but I don't think LaDainian ever had 100.
I think 100. I think the 100 catches is probably the.
I mean, that's a Hall of Fame season.
Yeah,
for Charlie Garner. He had some good years in Philly. Good years with the Niners.
Yeah,
but he really blew up in that 2002 season with the
Hall of Very Good, right? He's in the Hall of Very Good,
and he's a NoVA Hall of Famer, and we're gonna put him in the All Hitches Hall of Fame, I think.
Yeah, maybe with an upcoming merch store, we can have Charlie Garner high school football T-shirts. Represent those
are some really good Justice teams that he was on, by the way. I mean, outstanding teams. Another Hall of Famer. No, we're in the spirit of Hall of Fame. And we're talking about, we've been talking about our new show, right? Yeah. Our new show on Friday nights this fall, right? Yeah. Friday night, All Hitches Friday Night Spotlight. We were talking about the GOAT, the red zone GOAT, Andrew Siciliano.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a South Lakes grad.
Really?
Yes.
He was not a New York guy?
No. Why? Because Siciliano? No. We have plenty of Pisons around here.
South Lakes, huh?
South Lakes guy. Now look, I'm going to reach out to Mr. Siciliano, the GOAT of Red Zone. He was doing Red Zone before Scott Hansen was.
He was the original Red Zone guy.
He was the original Red Zone guy. And if you know, you know. Only those who know. I'm going to reach out to Andrew Siciliano, and I'm going to see if he wants to join all Hitches for our debut episode. Maybe just do an intro.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
cool.
Just
do the intro.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be very cool. So, South Lakes alum, Andrew Siciliano, we're coming after you, my friend.
Is he the most famous South Lakes graduate, or is he the second most famous?
He's got to be at least the second. Grant Hill is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Joey Beard, right? A Duke guy. But yeah, South Lakes has always put out the top tier guys, especially in basketball. Speaking of top tier guys,
I was waiting for it.
Yes, you were. We got a good one today.
We do.
I mean, holy smokes, Coach! Coach Slay.
Yeah. The
world wanted it, and the world shall get it.
Yeah, you've been a big fan. You've been a big Slay guy. You've been slaying for Slay.
I climbed the mountaintop. I said, everybody. I said it in August, early August last year.
Yeah.
I said, Mace, there's something special going on over there. There's a gleam. There's a gleam, man. And Coach Slay got that gleam.
Yeah, did a fantastic job with a young squad, and what was a game away from returning Oakton to the playoffs, and I can't tell you how many years.
Yeah. No, I can't tell you how many years either. Yeah. And we know it was 7 years since their last win in the Concord.
So it has to be at least 7 years, right? If they won a game in the Concord, they probably won't make the playoffs.
Right. But yeah, there was a gleam this past year at Oakton, and it was kind of redemption, right? Yeah. And rebuilding. And we kind of talk about this in this interview. It's a great interview. I think everyone's really going to enjoy it. Kind of getting into the how and kind of why and all that and kind of the foundations of the rebuild.
Yeah, definitely worth listening to.
Yep. So let's get into that now. All right, Coach Slay from Oakton High School. All right. Well, here we are with Coach Slay from Oakton High School. This is a long-awaited interview. I've had people asking us, when are you going to get Coach Slay on? When are you going to get Coach Slay? We got it. We're delivering the goods. Coach Slay, how you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate you all having me on and just kind of having a little conversation with y'all.
No, it's our pleasure to have you on. I'm curious. After last season, how many blood pressure pills does the doctor have you on? I mean, does he have you just like a full out the shot cart for your heart? I mean, after last season, I'd imagine the doctor's like, I don't know what you're doing to your stress level, but you gotta maybe get some Zen going, some meditation.
I wouldn't necessarily say blood pressure, but I did have a couple grades. There was definitely a couple grades that came in, and I was like, I'm way too young for this.
The cardiac cougars. That's what we were calling you last year, man.
Yeah, some of our parents, especially with with the Commanders season that way it went. People were like, you need to be a Commanders fan now.
You are not a Commanders fan?
Nope, I'm actually a Ravens fan.
A Ravens fan.
Ravens fan.
Okay. What was your first Ravens team that like that those are my guys? Who was that?
So funny. I am a new Ravens fan. When I say a new Ravens fan, I'm a 90s baby. Okay. So my favorite sports team is Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
So if I'm a 90s baby, I'm saying the Braves. My football team's always been the Cowboys. But this past season, I don't know what it was. I love Lamar Jackson. I'm an authentic person. And when I see somebody like Lamar Jackson who's authentic to themselves, when I hear him talk, I hear South Florida. Okay. And you could just tell that he hasn't changed who he is, his lingo for anybody.
Yeah.
And he goes out there and plays the way he does. And I respect people who are authentically themselves.
Yeah.
Well, I like that.
With the Ravens too. I mean, I'm a Niners fan, but John Harbaugh coaches the game the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Hard nose. Him and Mike Tomlin. If you're looking for two guys leaders of men to run the organization, right? Those are two guys in particular that if they were ever to get fired or whatever, 31 teams would be calling that guy 10 seconds after the regulation. So, but yeah,
absolutely.
A guy like Harbaugh. Go ahead.
What makes both of those coaches great, especially Harbaugh. Harbaugh's a former special teams coach.
Yeah.
You know, you think about things like that, and if somebody's coming in from special teams, you know they're going to be detailed.
Yeah, for sure.
And if they're bringing that detail to offense and defense and that structure, that's program building right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, look, I mean, Coach, we met, I think it was week 2 this year. And we started talking. And the first thing, because I remember everyone started talking about Coach Slade, the McLean guy, or Coach Slade, the Loudon guy. So then we got to meet, and your story was a lot more than, McLean or Loudon. So before we kind of get into it all, tell us a little bit about Coach Slade.
Kind of hit a little bit on it. Well, I look at it as my youth elementary years. I'm a Fairfax County guy. I grew up I fell in love with high school football by going to Robinson football games. The year Robinson won a state title, I would say 2002, with the Mike Emo, Chase Anastasia, that group. Yeah. I was in the stands as a 4th, 5th grader every week. When they went down to Richmond and played the state title, actually, let me go back. Deep Creek state semifinals. My family drove out there.
Wow.
State finals. My family drove out there for those games. So, that's where my, true love for football developed right here in this area in Fairfax County. And then once I got to middle school, I ended up, my family moved to Georgia. I started high school, my first 2 years in Georgia, and then family decided to move back. And that's when I got to Stonebridge, was able to play for Mickey Thompson for 2 years, which was a fun experience. Ended up winning a state title there. And then after high school, played 4 years at NC State. And it was during that time, honestly, you could talk to some of my old teammates and they can tell you one of the phrases I used to say was, I can't wait to have the whistle in my mouth instead of my foot on this line. And I knew right after college that I wanted to coach football, and I knew I wanted to coach high school football. I don't want coaching football to be about the wins and losses. And I think when you get past high school, the impact you have on young people, that goes away. It's really about winning and losing. And I don't want to be potentially let go because I might have lost a couple games.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
I was going to say, and especially, now when you get past high school, it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
It's big. It's a big. It was a business before. So let's call it what it is. It was a business as far as the coaches are going. For the kids, it was still some collegiate athletics. That's all out the door now.
Yep.
Everybody's getting paid. Everybody's getting paid. These are business decisions. It's a business, and so I think that high school is now maybe the last pure football that you'll get for the rest of your life. Because once you go to that next level, it's like I said, it's coaches are coaching for their jobs. They're coaching not for their current job. They're coaching for their next job.
Yep.
And the kids now are making business decisions based on, because now they have skin in the game, which I think college athletes, concerned about what they go through, should be compensated for what they're given at the university. But yeah, I can see where you're seeing. I can see what you're saying though, where coaching at the higher levels, it's definitely a different world.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you say that. You notice how you don't see the college NCAA commercials anymore. They're saying that they're going to go professional in something other than athletics.
Yeah.
Why you think that is? Because they're already professionals.
Right.
Yeah. No, they're making such good money now. Talk about these top tier guys that they're like putting it off. Like, I'll go next year. I'll come out next year. I'm going to stay and have fun and make millions of dollars.
Yes. I tell you this though, 19, if you told me I can get $1 million, I probably wouldn't be having this interview with you. I wouldn't know what to do with that kind of money.
All right. So go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dash. Go ahead, Dash.
No, I wanted so and you came back. Now you spent time coaching at your alma mater, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you started off in the coaching in Northern Virginia?
So I actually started off so I played my 4 years. I had another semester left in school after I was done playing. So my first actual year was actually down in North Carolina. And then once I graduated and all that, I then came back and I coached for Mickey for 2 years. And honestly, that was a great experience because I got to see Mickey as a player and as a coach. So kind of those two different perspectives of him. And then from there, honestly, in a way, it's not fair to the other head coaches I got to work for because every other head coach, I compared it to Mickey. And I feel like that's a great person to compare it to.
Yeah.
So it just not trying to, as I got to different spots, I would realize and understand why they were where they were at as a program. Because when you see somebody like Mickey run the program the way he did it and how he did it and how particular he was about things, and then you go to other places and see that the standards or little things are just not held to or looked at the same. You know what I mean? So just in a way, it hurt my respect for some of the coaches. I wouldn't say hurt, but I always looked at it like, I don't know, because I was always comparing them to the way Mickey Thompson went about his business. And again, if Mickey could do it, I feel like it's going to be successful for a lot of people.
So with a legendary coach like that, what are some things you took from him that kind of that you use now in coaching philosophy, not necessarily as a head coach, but what are some things that you learned from him as a player and also being under him as a coach? What are some things that you feel like he instilled in you or you picked up and kind of put in the bank?
As a player, the biggest thing that he put on me was, to be honest, Mickey didn't care how good you were. He was going to let you know about yourself, and when I came from Georgia, I had some buzz, I came in and I thought I was a shit,
Yeah.
and just some of the things and how I carried my business, Mickey would just be like, no, that's not how you do things, and was not afraid to get on me. And some places, if you're a guy, you can get away with bloody murder sometimes, and I just felt like at the time, as being 16, 17, 18, you're just like, man, why is this coach on me about this, that, and the other? But once I got to college, I started to understand and realize that, oh, I got why Mickey was like that, So it just, as a player, it taught me that you got to treat everybody with the same fairness. You got to hold the standard is the standard, regardless if it is your number one top player or if it is the dude that is only going to go in the game if they're up 40. So it's just kind of treating the standard's the standard, like I said, And then as a coach, the biggest thing that he taught me was never really knew how hard and how much work it goes into being a head coach until you start to see that and be around it, and that was, like I said, me getting with Mickey, that was my second year as a head coach, and I wasn't a student anymore. I wasn't in college. I was around a little bit more and had time to be around, so that just to see the things and how much work he put into it, it just kind of lets you know, it made me appreciate him a little bit more as a player standpoint. Having played for him and not knowing all the behind the scenes stuff that he did for the kids and for the banquet. You ask any Stonebridge alumni and they'll tell you the Stonebridge banquet it's an event where kids come back from school to go to the banquet.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when you get an understanding of how much behind the scenes that he does, then you got to start asking yourself, do I really want to be a head coach?
Yeah. Well, I mean, being able to see it from the best. And it's funny, with him, leaving this year and Coach Hansen, it's been like kind of like the year of the legends kind of, taking a step back this year, and, all the young coaches, have big shoes to fill, in NoVA. So one of the things that I think were unique about you when you got this job, you were doing your defensive side of the ball, and was it O-line or was it O-line the year before? I heard both.
So my first year at McLean, I was offensive line, and then I transitioned to the second year I was at McLean. I transitioned to defensive coordinator.
Let me tell you something. That's two. And Mason will piggyback on this. Two white whales right there. One, you can ask a lot, and a lot of head coaches right now, hey, they're holding up signs right now saying defensive help. need defensive help, right? So you had that. And then the other sign they hold up is O-line help. So the fact that you could do both, that's huge.
See, for me, though, like I said, I've always known I wanted to coach, but I've always, even in college, I was saying I wanted to be a high school head coach. So each stop that I went to, I wanted to coach something different, to have a perspective, a different perspective, so that when I was in this seat, that there wasn't a position on the field that I felt like I can't coach it. You know what I mean? What if I can't find a coach to do that? I can always go and fill that role. And when I got to McLean, honestly, that was offensive line was the one position offensive line and quarterbacks was the two positions I haven't coached yet. And when I was leaving the school, I was actually at Flint Hill year prior when I was knowing that I was going to leave, and I started to look around. That's all I wanted to do was be somebody's O-line coach. It was because I wanted to coach an offensive line just to have that experience.
Yeah.
Wow. Let me just tell you, there's a lot of young coaches. Hope they're listening, right? Because I'll tell you what I see, my experience is a lot of young guys, the exact opposite of that. And the first thing they tell everybody, well, I receivers and quarterbacks, go ahead, send it my way. Give me receivers and quarterbacks.
Or they come right in and think they should be a coordinator.
Oh yeah, or that, right. I'll settle for the pass game coordinator.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, if that's the case, at least try to go coordinate some lower levels. Yeah, I made some mistakes as a JV coordinator that I said if I ever as a varsity coordinator, I would never do that again. And just kind of help me call a game and go through a flow of calling a game. Right. Just calling it at the lower levels, and you didn't think you had that pressure on you to the Friday night pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me kind of back up a little bit. I always term offensive line coach as being similar to a special ed teacher in high school. If you're an offensive line coach, you'll always have a job.
Yep.
If you put, I need coaches, if you get a guy who says, I'll coach the offensive line, you hire that guy immediately because they just don't show up because it's not much like playing the offensive line. It's not glamorous. You don't get to do a lot. It's great to coach those guys because you coach these guys as a unit. I think more than any probably position on the field, it's those five guys have to work in unison every play.
Yep.
Secondly, if you want to be an offensive coordinator, you've got to learn O-line play because you got to know where the bleeding's coming from. If you can't figure out where the bleeding's coming from and how to stop that bleeding, you're doomed as an offensive coordinator. So I tell people all the time, anytime there's a young coach who wants to start coaching, I said the first thing you should do is not necessarily coach the offensive line, but be with the O-line coach who's there and learn how to do that. Because you gotta learn how to block.
Or you could be a running backs coach.
Yeah. Or you be
think about your inside run and things like that. Yeah. Those periods.
Yeah.
Who are you with?
Right. You're with the offensive line 100%. And then learning the defensive side of the football. Again, if you just want to be an offensive guy, learning how things work on the defensive side of the football. I am always shocked how many offensive coordinators out there think that DBs are just robots and you have the flat. That guy will never be there because he has a flat and they don't even understand. No. Defensive back coaches teach them. No, if you don't have anything to do, don't just stand there and cover grass. Find someone to cover because I've seen offensive coordinators lose their mind during 7-on-7. Oh, he's in cover 2. He's gonna be in the flat. Not if there's nobody there. But again, learning the defense other side of the ball. I've been fortunate to call both sides of the ball, and knowing both sides and calling both sides, having a knowledge of it helps you out immensely because it kind of puts you in the brain space of on the other side too as well. But
yep.
I mean that's awesome that you saw that you needed to be able to fill in kind of the, I don't want to say shortcomings, but just kind of fill your knowledge so that way you would be able to do that because as a head coach sometimes you can't find that guy to coach the position. So guess what, buddy, that job is yours. So
exactly.
Yeah. But you have to want to learn.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like, and not just in coaching, but in just in everyday life. There's just too many know-it-alls that don't want to learn. And my wife would say that about me sometimes when I'm putting something together and I'm not reading the directions, But it's that kind of thing, right? But and I might approach my IKEA furniture like that. That's different. But in terms of like everyday life, I want to do that for a living. But then to all of a sudden assume that, no, I already know all that.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I'm a big believer. I believe that the moment you feel like you know it all, you're getting worse.
Yeah, right. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true.
All right. So you get to Oakton. You get to Oakton after McLean, and you walk in there, and they've been struggling for quite a few years, right? They've been struggling for quite a few years. So you walked in there. So give me some things that you look for that you're like, okay, what are some things at the top of your list? You're like, these are things I need to accomplish early on. So you walked in, and when you try to develop a plan on how you're going to be able to kind of get things going and change the direction. What were the things you were looking at doing when you got in there?
Well, there's a couple different standpoints you got to look at that from. One, the biggest standpoint is kind of your support, and what I mean by support is your team moms, your ADs, things like that, and kind of what was the energy before and what kind of energy am I trying to get across. So I know that yes, the AD hired you got your back now, but now that you're working and you're in it, to be like, hey, I want things to be done this way. I would like practice to be done this way. Can I get music at practice and kind of those things like that? And then from just the behind the scenes standpoint and getting everything structured the way that I want, it might sound crazy, but getting your storage room organized the way you want it. Yeah. So you can walk in, grab what you want, and know where everything's at. You know what I mean? Or just if it's not organized in a sense that you feel like it's way you want it, get it to how you need it to be shaped and things like that. Where's your equipment and how all that stuff kind of the timeliness of it. You know what I mean? Especially again, our field's the bottom of the hill. I mean, at the top of a hill. You know what I mean? And then from a player standpoint, obviously your first thing you want to do is that evaluation. All right, who's the strong one? Who's the fast one? And things like that. You know, and then it was funny. Our first Green Day had all these plans to, we're going to install this, we're going to install that, here's the install and this, that, and the other. And then you realize, we can't even block. You know what I mean? So it's just like, now you got to reevaluate it a little bit, you know? So honestly, the first, I would say 4 or 5 months, every time I saw the kids, the first thing we did was work on our blocking, you know? Work on tackling those football fundamentals. And even obviously as you're watching film, you kind of see it a little bit, but when you go out there and you just have a bag and you see kids there, just their posture and trying to block. When they're just the rounded back, they're all on their toes and they're falling forward, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, wow. Okay, let me reevaluate. How much can we install? If we can't block it, you know, so it's just like those little nuances, and no matter what the plan that you have, be ready to reevaluate it very quickly.
No, that's smart, and you'll never go broke with a team that can block and tackle. You'll never go broke. You do those two things, right? If you can block and tackle, I mean, maybe you won't be the Super Bowl champs, but you'll be able to play for sure.
That was our biggest priorities this past year. Was let's get better at the fundamentals.
Yeah. And I would see it. I mean, you guys would swarm to the ball. I loved watching you guys play. And one thing I do know, just I'm a lifer here, and I know that you guys get those Vienna youth kids at Oakton, and so you're getting kids with fundamentals. Now again, I mean, not every kid plays youth football, but at least you're getting a strong core. And I mean, Mason, I watch from afar every year. We kind of keep trying to look at some of these freshman teams, and Oakton. Even when they were struggling, right, before you got there in the several years, as Mace's, dying on us over there. But their freshman teams were they were always solid. Exactly. I always noticed they were 7-1, I think they're 8-0, 7-1. So you as approaching there, you saw that right from when you're looking up when you're applying for that job. You're like, ooh, look, there's some young bucks over here that can play.
Absolutely, huddle is a fun thing. That's all I'm gonna say. Especially when kids they make their highlights and stuff like that, and I mean, honestly, I feel like any coach that's applying for or looking at a new head coaching job, go look at those huddle highlights, see what grades and things like that those kids are in, and it kind of gives you an idea of what the future looks like at that school.
Yeah, I was always impressed with the talent, and we said it even before. I remember that whenever that was, that winter or whatever, when the job came up, I had people reach out to me and they're like, "What do you think about the Oakton job?" And I said, "I think it's a good job." I said, "I think it's a damn good job. I would apply for that." So yeah, so good stuff. I mean, we were talking about it off camera a minute ago. That's one of the, to me, Oakton's one of the, that's been one of the top schools over the last 20 some odd years in this area.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was funny that you say that. My 2 years as a player at Stonebridge, Mickey used to use that as a standard point. If we weren't practicing the way we needed to be, or this, that, and the other, he'd be like, "Well, I guarantee you they're not doing that at Oakton." So, and that was kind of one of the things that really enticed this place for me, was because I know where it was at. Even in 2008 when they beat Chantilly in the regional final, I think it was, I was at that game. I was here at that game. So I know where this place can be, and it's really a truly special place. It just got to take a little care.
So
I like that.
You had a big win. Your big win was against Fairfax, obviously, right there. Going into that week of practice, I mean, could you tell the vibe was a little different? I mean, was there something, or could you tell that your guys were just ready to kind of make that next step? I mean, was there anything that you saw that week that told you, I think we got a chance?
Or maybe it was the worst week of practice ever, and and then all of a sudden, sometimes that happens, right?
Yeah. It's funny. You all know, being coaches in the area, how during the off season we have those team camps. So we did our team camp last year at Fairfax.
Oh, wow.
And in my opinion, I felt like, and I think a lot of our kids felt like, the day we competed against them was our best day of those 3 days.
Okay.
So when you take that into consideration, and yes, Fairfax, they're a really good program. But when you take into consideration that our kids felt like they had a chance, even before the season started, just looking at the schedule, they felt like they had a chance. And, and the big thing for me was the week prior to, yes, it wasn't the greatest first game that I would like to have started off with, getting shut out, but the fight that we had in that Langley game. If you watched our tape in previous years, it took one or two big plays from the opponents and they quit. So the fight and the not quit that we had in the week prior, obviously I felt good, and I felt like, the nerves of the first week, everybody thought we were going to play Friday night. We get over there, we sit for 2 hours, and then it's like, go home, we'll come back tomorrow. I felt like that had an effect on the overall structure, and also it's not really talked about a lot, and I'm going to put it out there, was Fairfax having to play that Monday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I think that actually went into some of our game planning. As for me, I was like, those kids, their normal week of practice is off.
Yeah.
So how can we take advantage of that? So going into that week, I felt like we had a chance. I felt good. I feel good about every game we go into, and just as the game went on, and just, again, it was 7-7 right before half. They run a trick play to go up 14-7. And, as a coach, I can go in there and say, hey, look, that's how scared you got them. They got to run trick plays.
Right.
You know what I mean? To kind of put it in their minds that, no, don't quit yet. And then what really helped, too, is when it's 21-7, we go down and score 21-14, and now they look up and they're like, it's the fourth quarter with 2 minutes, and we're still in it.
Yeah.
And you haven't been in that position in a long time as a program, and all of a sudden you're in it. That's going to do something for your kids.
Oh, 100%.
That's going to give them a little energy, that little, and again, they had to play Monday. We didn't. So, but it was a really, really good football game. I enjoyed that game. I mean,
now you guys went for 2, right, for the win?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've told Dash before, a lot of times, also, maybe for big games, it's kind of the decision that's one of the things as a coach, you make that decision. Look, if we're up by, if we're down by 1, we're going to go for 2, and this is what we're going to kind of do. Was that the thought process during that, or was it kind of like, you know what, the ball's in our hand, let's see if we can end this game right now?
Yeah, that's a good question, because this is a debate you and I had 3 months ago. So you can settle it for us.
All right. So what goes into it is, honestly, we were being inconsistent in the kicking game. That I didn't want to lose it on a field goal. I'd rather lose it on an offensive play. The week prior, we attempted a field goal attempt, and it was way wide. Earlier in that game, we attempted a field goal attempt, and it was blocked. And I think the one to go 14, when we scored to go 14, it was tipped and it went in.
Okay.
So it wasn't working. And like I said, I'd much rather win or lose it calling an offensive play than potentially a field goal when we haven't. The operation hasn't. It's shown me so far it hasn't been working.
Okay. Now, did you know on that drive, if we score, I know what I'm running here. I know what I'm going to run if we score.
So the series before that, you all know Fairfax. They like to run the football.
Yeah.
The series before that, on first down, they threw the football. And as soon as they threw the ball, I said to myself, when we get a chance, I'm gonna try to win it on a 2-point play.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
And literally, as soon as the ball went incomplete, I asked the offensive coordinator, "Do you have a 2-point play?" And he said, "Yes." So I said, "All right."
Yeah.
I love that.
That's cool. So I guess, and the flip side would be that you had 2 heartbreaking losses.
Yes.
I believe the West Springfield game and then the Centerville game, correct? Centerville game. Yes. Now I'm trying to remember this correctly. You guys were on the goal line, or they were on the goal line at the end of the game? I thought it was
for Centerville.
Centerville,
we were on the goal line to potentially tie.
You were on now
because it was 6-0 or 7-0.
It was 7-0.
It was 7-0.
Here's the worst part about that game. That you know how they scored that 7?
It was the interception, wasn't it, or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? We lost the game and we gave up no points defensively.
Yeah.
That's how heartbreaking that is.
Trust me, I know. I know about that kind of stuff. So obviously after the Fairfax, so again the flip side, right? Fairfax came, the kids are losing their mind. What do you do to tell these kids? Because I mean, Oakton at that point still had not won a Concord game for is that at that point 2.5 years, 3 years? That's it.
7.
I'm sorry, 7.
That's right. 7 years. We talked about that.
How do you because it's got to be devastating. Because it's right there, right? It's right there in their hands to get their first win in 7 years. How do you rally those kids? I mean, obviously the emotion of the day has got to be tough. What did you do to try to get these guys to kind of get their mind right? I mean,
we didn't talk about it.
Okay.
We went back to work. And so the following week, we had a bye week, which helped. Yeah. And then we played West Potomac, so it's not a district game. It was just, hey, let's just go try to win a ball game. And when we got to play South Lakes after West Potomac, was obviously it's a district game. I told the coaches Sunday night, we don't talk about it being a district game. Because we made such a big deal out of it the Centerville week. Okay. I felt like it played a part. That they went out there thinking that, hey, we got to go do this to get the monkey off our back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I made it a point to simply not talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't help when you got two big talking heads talking about it the whole week leading up to it.
but again, I think it just got in our kids' head a little bit too much. Okay. And our kids are still learning how to go about their business. Then they were still learning. Even right now, we're still learning about the things that you need to do to be successful in sports. You know, and a lot of last year, they were in positions their high school careers they've never been in.
Right.
You know, so it was just, again, I think because that's Centerville week, we talked about it. I talked about it. The coaches talked about it. It's going to be our first one in 7 years. Like, let's go, this, that, and the other. And then you can kind of tell how they played in the start that they were thinking about it. Okay. So then next time we came into a district game, it was just like, let's not talk about it. It's just another football game.
Yeah. That makes sense. And you guys were so young.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so last year's...
Hey, we're going to be young next year, too.
Yeah, you are. You got so much talent. I mean, so let's talk about that for a second. Because we know how it went, right? I mean, South Lakes game, and you guys had it was a +2 from the year before, right? Last year you won 2 more games, which was awesome.
And if you guys would have beat Chantilly, you'd have got the playoffs, right? Is that
correct?
Yeah. So
that's right.
You played a playoff game. It was
that was the playing game. I mean, essentially that was a playoff game, right?
But if we didn't those heartbreakers, those 2 heartbreakers, it didn't matter.
Yeah, right. But still, it was a taste of it was playoff atmosphere.
Yes,
and that's going to help you in year 2. So now going into year 2, first thing I guess I'll ask you before we get into the players is, what are things that you knew, like, okay, I want to see this, and this going into year 2. I saw, year 1 of the rebuild, check. Now year 2, what's part of year 2?
Our biggest thing is 2 things really, is accountability and discipline. I think a lot of last year, and again, young team and things like that, we made a lot of young, undisciplined mistakes. And I think once we clean up some of our discipline, like I did went back over the season and watched. In our every game, in our first 5 plays, we either fumbled or turned the ball over. Or not fumbled, excuse me, penalty or turned the ball over. And a lot of the penalties, discipline. There was a couple of times where we just came out offensively and lined up wrong. It's like, how? You know what I mean? So it's just, I think the biggest thing that going into this next year is now discipline. Once we're able to get that discipline and then, again, accountability, it's going to be, I think we're really going to make that really turn the corner. I'm still in a position where I feel like myself and the coaches, we're still policing everything. So as soon as we get to that point where the accountability, where they start to self-police themselves, essentially, in a sense, then that's naturally going to do what? Going to get the discipline part too. Yeah. So it's those 2 things that I'm really trying to really mold and get into their minds right now. And I think, again, like, if we can get there, like I know we can, we'll really turn a corner this year.
So speaking kind of on again, building off of last year, sometimes it can happen where the kids now are competitive and they were competitive games and they kind of feel almost like they arrived, right? I mean, they think to themselves, oh, we would have won those 2 games, we would have been 5-5, we'd have been playoff good. Like, do you find yourself having to every now and then kind of check them? I mean, not necessarily all of them, but check them, being like, no, like there's still a lot more to do. Because again, when being so unsuccessful for a bunch of years that they haven't really been enjoying success, and now just being competitive, a lot of times the kids are like, oh, we're good, right? Like, look, we can follow with them. I mean, is there anything you've got to do as far as making sure kind of keeping their head straight? But like, no, we still got a hill to climb. Like, there's still we're not where we want to be at.
I'm a big believer that you are who your record says you are. Okay. Yes. Did we change the energy, the culture, and things like that? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we're still a 4-6 football team. Yeah. So it's just, if we keep that in perspective and work towards where we want to be, create our team goals, create our personal goals, and not only just creating them, but create the steps of how we're going to get there. Yeah. And I think once we, again, the accountability and that discipline, I think that we will become the team that they want to be. Yeah. We'll become the team that I envision, that I know they can be. Yeah. So it's just keeping things in perspective, because, again, 4-6 is still below 500. You know what I mean? So you are who your record says you are. And if you want to change that, then you've got to put in the work to change that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. So what are some things now coming into, again, year 2, the things you want to work on, discipline and all that. Now, as far as what are things you're focusing on the field wise? Now, philosophy for the offseason, is it, we talked to Coach Vossler, and that's going to air next week. But, you'll see in that interview, Coach Voss is talking about, he's putting everything first and foremost. Yeah, there'll be competitions and all that, but it's weight room first. We talked to, Coach Overton. That one's coming out. Actually, it'll be already out by the time this one comes out. And for him, he's in Myrtle Beach right now, in a 7-on-7 tournament. and that's where he's at first and foremost. So for you, what's the first thing for you guys as far as physically in the offseason you guys want to start doing?
We're gonna get out here and do some 7-on-7s. I think, we will travel a little bit to do some of this stuff. I want to take our kids outside of this area and compete. I want them to go against some kids that they don't know.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get out there and grind with somebody. Because then when they come back here against their buddy that they went to elementary school with, they're not being buddy, friendly with them anymore. You know what I mean? And understand that it's time to go. So we will do a little bit getting out there and doing some 7-on-7 stuff, but we're trying to keep it in-house, and trying to keep ourselves together, and not be so spread out everywhere. I think some of these, you see all these 7-on-7 teams and things like that, now obviously I can't stop a kid from, if he wanted to go do something with another 7-on-7 group, I can't stop him from doing that. But I am trying to create opportunities for these kids to do it with the guys they're going to play with on Friday nights. So not only are we getting better as individuals and kind of our technique and things like that, doing that stuff, but we're also building that camaraderie, and it goes back to the accountability. They're able to hold each other accountable now and not waiting until August to start to do things together as a team.
Are you teaching PFIT over there, or are you?
Yes.
You're doing PFIT. So this is the question of the day, because Voss got into the details, the nuts and bolts. How many sections do you guys have as a school of PFIT?
We have 8.
That's strong.
7. But I don't teach them all. Obviously, we got to have our I wish I can get me a Jefferson. But I teach 5 sections of it, and that's all I'm teaching this year.
Yeah.
PFIT. But
and what would you say? What would you say out of that? Because I really believe this is part of the culture of a building. I really do. And so 7 or 8, and then within the 7 or 8, because what do you get, about 30, 25, 30 per class ish?
Yeah. 25, 30.
And what would you say? How many just ballpark it on an average would you say of each class is football kids? 5%, 10%, 20%?
Not as much as I would like, if I'm being honest with you. And part of that is, but you got to think about where from school to school. And what I mean by that, my kids are smart. A lot of kids on my team, they are college prep. They're going for.
No, we get it.
They're going for advanced diplomas.
No, we get it, man.
So that's a battle that that I'm not gonna win that one. I'm not.
Yeah, it's so hard. I'm talking to because we know, right, at Woodson, we know, and I'm we did the electives talk, and I don't teach the PFIT class, but I'm still selling the fitness electives,
Yeah.
And I'm talking to the football players, and I'm like, guys, come on, man, like, and I didn't even know at that point that Westfield had 15, sections of it. I know, right? And I'm like, guys, come on, man. And not only that, part of me got, and like I almost want to talk to the counselors everywhere and be like, look, like, we're not talking about like a wood shop class, like, right? And not that anything wrong with wood shop at all, but I'm talking about the perception people have of that, like from the 1980s or whatever. But we're talking about a fitness class. They're all gonna join gyms at some point in their lives, probably as adults, a good amount of them, the athletes and non-athletes. A kid can go to JMU and take PFIT. A kid can go to Tech and take PFIT. They don't need to have like overloaded on freaking all these, AP classes to get into those schools. There are plenty of kids who take personal fitness that get into the same schools as the kids who didn't.
Exactly.
But you're right. That's a battle. That's a tough battle to fight.
So when are your opposite workouts? Like, how often are you getting your kids in the weight room? What is your
we
right now?
We split it up a little bit, and meaning like, and again, I want my kids to play other sports. I want that crossover and things like that. So essentially, we have a morning lift for those kids who have practice in the afternoon, and then the afternoon lift are for the kids who aren't playing any sports.
Okay, that makes sense.
So and it's nice because I actually have somebody that paying to do the strength and conditioning, so it's not like I gotta fill it all the time with just myself or coaches and things like that. So it could be hey, us football coaches will hold it in the morning. You got the afternoon. All right, cool. And after school, especially with some of the coaches who have kids and things like that, they can go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice to have that. Is that someone through the school, or is that someone you guys bring in separately through football funds? Or
it was when I first got hired, it was through the school, and then some of the other sports weren't really using it. And I was like, this is too valuable for me, so I'll go ahead and pay what I need to pay out of the football, you know what I mean, to go ahead and keep them on.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because that becomes an issue sometimes, right? Is people, you get stretched too thin. You're trying to do the mornings, like you said, for the kids who can't do it, or other sports or who have jobs or whatever. And then you're trying to do it in the afternoons, and then all of a sudden, some coaches can't do it. They got to, whatever. So to have that person come in, the strength and conditioning person, is huge.
Yeah.
So moving into next season, who are some kids that we should be looking out for? I mean, who are some kids on that you have on the radar right now? And I know you're gonna have some surprises during camp, but right now, kind of coming in this season, who are some kids that look like they've got a chance to have breakout years this year?
I mean, it's always hard to get some recognition as an O-lineman, but Wesley Lattis, really look out for him. I mean, he's picked up 2 offers over the last 2 weeks from Towson and ODU. So again, some offensive line wise, it's hard to really get that recognition. So I want to make sure that I put him out there first.
He's a big guy. What are his measurables? He's big.
He's 6'5", 6'6", 260 right now, and the 260 is because he wrestled. Once wrestling's over, I can put some food back in him.
Wow.
But yeah, he's really, really big and athletic, and just when you look at him, he's a slim 260.
Okay.
When I say a slim 260, like you could tell he's 260, but he holds it so well.
Yeah.
And he's athletic. So I'm really excited about the senior year he's going to have. And really this is going to be, he started his sophomore year. So the year before I got here, he back 5 games he started, and then he started every game for us last year. So we're talking about somebody going into next year with essentially 2 years of starting experience.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about how he's going to anchor the O-line for us this next year coming up.
Nowadays the days of the fat offensive linemen are gone.
Yes.
Offensive linemen now look like Karl Malone now, right? That's what
exactly.
That's what they look like now, right? I mean, they don't have these big bellies. They're not just kind of slow movers. Like they're long and they're athletic. I mean, that
you remember that Riverdale Baptist team we saw in person?
Oh, they had some left tackle. Dashcom said he's like, that Charles Mann? It's like,
I mean, that's what they look like. They look like fit DNs.
Yeah.
Like fit, they, like you said, the days of the big uglies. Not that there still are plenty of big uglies, but these guys were just. I mean, they look like tight ends. They all look like tight ends.
Mm-hmm. Training's gotten different. That's what it is, really.
So who else besides Lazarus? Who else?
I'm gonna keep it in the lineman aspect. I think another guy who's wrestling for us, Justin Racken. I think he's gonna come on and have a really big year for us next year. He started every game last year for us at nose guard as a sophomore. Yeah. So again, somebody coming back with a year's experience, and think what he wrestled 215 this year. He started. We went in there at like 230, 240 almost, and had to get down to 215. And just watching him now, where he's at and the way he's moving and things like that, I see a different kid already. So I'm really excited for what he's gonna do for us. Just some of the other guys who actually played for us. I mean, you got Timmy Volchak. I think he had a quiet year for us last year at receiver and DB for us. I think, it's funny. I keep trying to remind some of the guys, some of our coaches, is actually from an athletic standpoint, Timmy Volchak, his numbers stand out better than Dalen Jones. From a vertical, a sprint, things like that. So I'm very, very excited that once we get him going, what it's going to be like to have him and Dalen.
Yeah.
Is he also a big receiver?
Yes, he's, I would say 6'1", 6'2", 170 pounds.
Wow.
And then another receiver we got that I'm really, really excited for. He started last year for us as a freshman, Colin Henriquez. That kid.
I remember Enriquez. Yeah, the little slot guy.
I remember the name.
That's his brother.
Oh,
Ryan.
Okay.
Number 9 is his brother.
Okay.
Colin was number 0, and both of them are really good. Ryan is, he is a shifty little slot guy, just fast and can run. Whereas Colin is 6'2", 6'1", 180 pounds.
Jeez.
And can run and can jump.
Yeah.
Wow.
38-inch vertical.
Oh.
And that was at 14.
Wow.
So I'm really excited for what both of those brothers are going to do for us this next year. Who else? I said Dalen, then Jack. Can't forget Jack. You know, the things he did for us last year, and then coming back with some experience. And Braden Vasquez, another guy who's going to be he could be a slot running back. He can play a little bit of defense for us. You know, Isaiah Coleman, who started running back for us last year. I think that, especially him, the biggest thing for him is the maturity. You know, some of these kids, they got to grow up a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think Isaiah is one of those kids right now that's kind of going through a maturation process. And I'm really excited to see that happening for him, because once that kid figures it out, he's gonna be a really good player for us next year.
Wow, that's not bad.
Man, I'm excited to watch some Oakton games here, buddy. I can't wait. Mace is drooling over there, hearing all these 6'3" receivers. Take it easy over there, Mace.
We have a standard mode at this school, and I kid you not, it is 6'1", 170 to 185. And I say, I laugh and joke. I say we should be the best special teams team in the state.
It's true. It's true.
Were these kids Vienna youth kids? Were they do you know?
Most of them were. Now that I think about it, Dalen actually was See, we actually split with Vienna and SYA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we get some SYA because Dalen was actually an SYA kid.
Okay.
And we got a couple more handfuls. Yeah. But
you probably get some Chantilly kids too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who knows? When they talking about this new redistricting and redoing the lines, who knows what's going to happen?
Right. Because Chantilly on the back end, right? There's a Chantilly Oakton kind of.
Yeah.
Isn't there? I thought there was. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Man, like Coach, I'm excited, man. I'm excited over there.
I appreciate it. I'm excited. I think, like I said, we got young talent, but it just we needed to cultivate it, and we're getting there, and we're slowly but surely getting there. And I'm really excited to see where we're going to be at.
Yeah. I mean,
your guys who graduated, right? Any signees, commitments? I've seen a couple, I thought, or at least guys who are looking.
No, I had this year. I mean, I had some guys that I think could have went and played some D1, not D1, D2 or D3 ball. But a lot of these kids, I mean, a lot of our seniors this year were also play lacrosse,
right?
Baseball kids, and some of them, honestly, they just wanted to go pledge. They wanted to go to Tech and pledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of times too, right? The kids. I mean, we're at the Square at Woodson. A lot of our kids probably could play other places, but they're like, well, I got accepted into UVA. I think I just want to go to UVA, and that's
exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's great, man. You worked hard in the classroom for 4 years. You should go where you want to go to school at.
Right.
At the end of the day, I mean, I know you played D1 ball. You know, playing high level football is great, but if you're not looking to if you're just looking to go to college, go somewhere else, you need to go somewhere you're comfortable at. And so, last thing you want to do is kind of send. And I think sometimes parents don't understand that I as far as coaches go, I don't want to send a kid to go somewhere because he thinks he might want to play football. I want this kid to go graduate from college.
Exactly.
I don't want a place he's not going to be happy at because maybe he might want to play football and then he's going to get there. And again, you playing college football and I've had kids who've gone on to play. That's hard. It's hard to be a college, especially when you're talking about D2, D3, because they don't have nearly the amount of stuff that the
resources
the D1 kids get, right? At D3, you're freaking getting up. You're being a regular student. There's no tutoring. There's no anything else.
Yep. You better love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it was.
And at the end of the day, as coaches, our job is to support these kids regardless.
100%.
And if these kids want to go to Tech and go to school with their friends and things like that, we're going to support it. You got to. You ain't got a choice.
For sure.
And you're seeing more and more also like club teams.
Well, Mason's a club team. Mason's a club.
Yeah.
But there's not that many teams. Because they were talking about the tournament. Ohio State does have
Ohio
one.
State has a club team, right?
Because they beat Mason in that championship a couple years ago. And there's also different leagues. It wasn't like one. There's not one governing body. So it's kind of, but like lacrosse, but other sports do. And I get it with football because of the contact and stuff. But other sports like lacrosse, that's huge. I mean, like the whole SEC, right, has that's become this enormous. We're seeing a lot of kids at Woodson, probably Oakton too. These lacrosse powerhouses where kids are not going to play college lacrosse, NCAA, but they're choosing if I'm going to go to Auburn or I'm going to go to LSU and play, club lacrosse.
Mm-hmm. And still get that big college feel.
Right.
Yeah. They're at the Auburns, the LSU, the Georgias, you know what I mean?
Right. You got to have the money to do that, right? That's part of being in NoVA, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, this was good, man. This was fun. Learned a lot, man, and telling you that people better keep an eye on Oakton. Keep an eye on Oakton. I said it last year. I was the first one to say it, Mesa.
You were.
I was the first one to say it.
Actually, no. You said this before we had a show when the Oakton job popped up. We were in the office, and you were like, "That Oakton job's a good job, man. Whoever gets that job, they got." And because we had seen what had happened was, I think we had seen videos of your freshmen when Dalen and Jack and those guys are freshmen, and we were like, ooh,
those kids could be some problems.
They got a little juice down there. They
did. Well, then we started looking. We were like, this is how the show started, right? Because we'd be talking about stuff like this. And I said, Mason, while you're at it, I said, look up last year's freshmen. And he'd look it up. He's like, oh, they were 6-2. I'm like, look up the year before that. He said, oh, they were 7-1. I'm like, holy crap. I was like, now. We're not selling you short here. It was a good job, but it had to be the right person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some bum couldn't come in off the street and start doing it, right? I mean, it had to be a guy who could, because morale is down and you got to put the pieces back together again.
Exactly.
All that stuff. So, I mean, it takes the right guy. It doesn't matter how, there could be a lot of talent in the youth league. You got to put it all together.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
So, I mean, way to go so far. And I know, like you said, I mean, you got a long way to go, and you know it, and you're going to keep on doing it. I can't wait to watch it.
I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, no, you deserve it.
Yeah, Coach. Well, look, I mean, I guess one last question before we let you go. Are you doing any kind of combo camp or anything right now that you know of this year? I know you did the Fairfax one a year ago.
Yeah, we did that. We're right now. I think we're gonna end up going to Shenandoah. I want to kind of go away kind of a trip.
Okay,
and do
that's
it
cool.
and kind of really that unity, bring some of that together. I would have did it last year, but year one, I didn't know these kids. I didn't know who I need to look out for.
That's smart. No, that's smart. You want to know who do I got to watch out for when we go on these
exactly.
trips? Now you know, right?
Look, who I need to put some tape on the door.
Right. So we're going to try and do some hop arounds in the spring and summer, early summer, late spring. Hopefully we can come by Oakton and kind of,
we're actually hosting a 7-on-7.
Okay, we'll do our visit. We'll do our camp visit.
Yeah, so I think it's June 14th. I'll shoot you a message and I'll let you know the exact date.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, Coach Slay, thanks a lot for joining us, man. Awesome stuff, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate y'all having me on. All right. Well, look, Coach, another outstanding interview. There really was a gleam. That guy has me ready to run through a wall.
Yeah, I get it now. I mean, just listen to that guy talk and kind of hear his plan and how he's attacking that program. I get it. I totally get it. Like, yeah, that he looks like Oakton may be a problem for a while with that guy at the helm. Yeah, look, I wasn't just saying that because he was in the show and we were talking to him. I meant it. Look out for that team. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're definitely. I mean, he's throwing out Vincent Jackson at one side and Calvin Johnson on the other side and Eddie Royal in the slot. I mean, this team sounds loaded. Yeah, they're definitely gonna be a problem. And with Madison graduating so many guys this year, and anyway, wrong, Madison football, it's still gonna be Madison football. Yeah, Madison, they reload, right? They're a team that reloads. But they're gonna be pretty dangerous for sure. Yeah, they are. Watch out for the Cougars. Yeah, watch out for the cardiac Cougars. The Cougars are on the prowl. Cougars on the prowl. Look out for them. Yeah. Look out for them. Coach Slay,
outstanding guy. Great listening to him. It's a fun one. I think everyone's going to enjoy that interview.
Yeah, or I did enjoy that interview.
Well, everyone's going to watching this show, they're going to enjoy this episode.
Yeah,
and we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
But I really did. That was one that everyone had been asking us, right, to get Coach Slay on. So I'm glad we did. I'm glad he came on. That's it. I think all the coaches we've had this offseason so far, they've all done a phenomenal job. And I think, there's been each guy kind of has everybody's kind of a different twist to, their approach and everything else, which is kind of cool and unique.
Yeah, different programs. Definitely exciting to hear about all their different kind of approaches and what they're taking with their team.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that interview with Coach Slay from Oakton High School, and tune in next time on All Hitches with Dash and Dan.
See ya.